black liberation fakeologists, right? That we're going to talk about. We're going to be taking a look again at Freddie Haynes. He's out of Dallas. And he doesn't hide who or what he worships, y'all. He loves him some Africa. Right now, I love the motherland too, but I ain't never lived there. I don't really have any connection to Africa. But you're gonna see when I show you this clip. He love him some melanin worship, don't he? Right? Like he love him some blackness. It's all he can preach about. It ain't Christ and him crucified for the remission of our sins. No, it's about the excellencies of the blackness, right? In the context of this oppressive American experience, you know, and he real animated with it. So we about to watch him for a couple of minutes. Y'all take a look at this.
Patriarchy won, sexism won, greed won, all of that won this past Tuesday. And we live in a nation calling itself the United States of America, espousing values of liberty and justice, and yet we have elected someone that is going to propel us into a Project 2025 world, a Project 2025 world that is going to dismantle public education, a Project 2025 world that while dismantling public education is going to feed private schools for rich people and their children, and so the have-gots get more and the have-nots get less, and they gonna try to make us pass the same standardized test. I'm simply saying, my sisters and brothers, we're moving into a Project 2025 world, a world where the Civil Rights Bill of 64 is going to be destroyed, a world where they are going to have King Donald reigning because of the Supreme Court saying he can reign without restraints, he can reign without any guardrails whatsoever, and his cult following is now so emboldened that they had the nerve to scare our young people this week, sending messages that targeted our young people, telling them to report to slave plantations.
Y'all, ooh, that was a lot. That was a lot, and I just wrote down a few things that we need to address because this, Freddie is some kind of special. I'm gonna say that. He right here is preaching pain with a bunch. There were so many falsehoods and lies. I don't even know where to start. Like this fool said, white supremacy won and patriarchy won. How weak and shameful do you have to be as a so-called Christian to even admit that white supremacy is an imminent threat to you? For white supremacy to be a threat, you first one have to admit that it's real. Now, I don't know about y'all, but white supremacy does not exist in the world where I live. Why? Because there is no white person supreme over me. Are you crazy? Have you gone mad? Christ is supreme and he is Lord over all. No human, no image bearer can claim superiority over me. I don't care if you are Julius Caesar or King Nero or Stalin or Hitler, Joe Biden, Donald Trump. I don't care who you are. No man is superior to me. I wish another filthy, wretched, sinful image bearer would claim to be supreme over me. I'm like, yeah, you all kinds of messed up. No, that is not how this works. First of all, we are all, apart from Christ, filthy, wretched, poor, blind, and naked. Left to ourselves, there is no good in any of us. There's no definition of white supremacy that aligns with the scriptures. And it pains me to hear so-called Christians even speak in these kinds of categories. Like, why would you preach this to your people? Why are you using the language of the critical race theorists? Why are you speaking this way? There's no hint of any one image bearer being superior over another. Even in this sinful world where at one time there were individuals who thought they had superiority over other image bearers. No, you declare what is true, not what these people think it is. But I get it. When you view yourself as a helpless victim, constantly waiting for the government to do right by you, whining and crying about how they owe you and how they oppressing you. And when you when you believe that whiteness has some perceived power over you, then you've already lost. You sound like a fool and you deserve to be oppressed. You deserve it. Why? Because the idea in this country, in 2024, am I saying that racism doesn't exist? That ain't what I'm saying. I'm sure there are plenty of people who hold hatred in their heart against others who don't look like them. He's one of them. Yes, he black and very racist. There are lots of people who feel some sort of kind of way toward others on the basis of their skin. But as the people of God, since when do you care what man thinks about you? Since when are you so preoccupied and obsessed and worried and afraid that there's just some white people that just don't love us? Yeah, well, deal with it. Get over it. Something. You may not just be a good person. Maybe there are white people around you that don't like you and it doesn't have anything to do with the color of your skin. Maybe that's a novel thought. That is very, very possible. But even if it's true, why do you care so much? If all of this white supremacy is such a problem, how is it that you've amassed to start a whole ministry that is allegedly successful? You buy property, you own vehicles, you move and function in the world, you come and go as you please, and there's nobody stopping you from achieving anything. But yet, you want to claim that Donald Trump winning the White House is white supremacy winning. You sound like a weak man. Get yourself together and open up the scriptures and echo what God has said about you as an image bearer and an heir of Jesus Christ, if you are actually in Christ. But I don't believe that you are. I believe you're of your father, the devil. And that's why you think this way, because your mind ain't been renewed. Your mind's not renewed. You don't have the mind of Christ, because if you had the mind of Christ, you wouldn't even speak this way. He actually said white supremacy and patriarchy won. Well, my question is, what's wrong with the patriarchy? What's wrong with patriarchy? As you would define it, it may not be how I would define it, but patriarchy is the idea of, in biblical terms, biblical male headship, where patriarchs are in charge and they are overseeing the well-being and the good of the people, and they respect and they honor women as the weaker vessel, and they protect women, and we run and function in our proper roles. It's called the complementarian society, not egalitarian, because we know, weak men love elevating women because, but to say patriarchy won, what does that even mean? What does that mean? Because we know you ain't a purposeful patriarch in our community. So what are you saying? What does that mean? And then to say sexism and greed won. I would argue we actually conquered sexism. And we effectively stomped out the ones who are actually greedy, and we kicked her behind up out of office. Why? Because the Biden-Harris, remember, she's a part of this current trash administration, they demonstrated that it was sexist. They demonstrated their sexism. The moment they chose to install Kamala Harris as VP on the basis of her being female, when there were plenty of other candidates that would have been more competent than her, that were male. That's the definition of sexism. It was sexist for them to choose her over a competent man. But because the left is so obsessed with identity, they can't see anything else. Their very own DEI foolishness cost them this darn election. That's just the truth. And to speak on the issue of the greed, greed was conquered. Greed was conquered because the Biden-Harris administration, they spent taxpayer money sending it to Ukraine, funneling it back to themselves, while we, the American people, we had needs here that went unmet. But we're too busy taking care, being worried about what's going on in Ukraine, and not worried about the needs and keeping America first. All of the rich elites made a boatload of money off of this Ukraine war. Don't think that didn't happen. Congressmen, senators, everybody got bread in their pocket except the American people. Obama got bread in his pocket. Kamala, well, she kind of had your bread in her pocket. She got her own bread, but she don't have her campaign bread. That's gone. That just got spent. That bread is moldy. But then he said, he made some claims that we need to deal with and address. He said he keeps grounding his argument in that we're now living in a Project 2025 world. I'm like, oh, here we go. This black ignorant getting on my nerves. First of all, y'all, Project 2025 is not Trump's plan. And to be fair, I kind of wish it was his plan, because in all honesty, Trump is not conservative enough. There, I said it. Trump is a moderate. What makes him look super conservative is the fact that the left is plumb crazy. They're so darn progressive that somebody like Donald Trump looks like a conservative. He's not a conservative. He is a common sense, I'm just trying to make a deal and make America great again kind of pseudo politician. He is a businessman that recognizes that the left has dragged this country so far that if he doesn't come in and step in and bring some normalcy and common sense to the situation, America will die. We will cease to exist. We will be overrun and ushered into the hand of globalist people who will have us out here living in communism, in a Marxist, godless society, and I don't want that. But he made some claims, rooting his argument in this dumb Project 2025 talking point. And he know the people in this church don't read. We know they don't read. Well, we know they ain't reading the Bible. We know that for sure. But he talks about Project 2025, and he mentions that with Trump being back in office, they're gonna funnel money for private schools for rich people. I'm like, I'm thinking he's talking about school choice, but let me break down to you guys how school choice works. School choice ain't for rich people. School choice is for the poor people. Like the Taekwondos in the poor performing schools in the hood that want to go to a better school, but they can't because the teachers union got the school on lockdown and says, no, you don't get to take your tax money. Or should I say the local school boards. And because the Department of Education at the federal level, all this money that's being allotted per child, that's, in my opinion, stolen from the American people, don't get to follow the child. So the child, if the school in his or her neighborhood is trash, which most of them are, because it's full of a bunch of toxic ideologies and worldviews that don't teach these children the basic fundamentals of how to function in the world. When he says that it's for private schools for rich people, I'm like, is that right? Because last time I checked, school vouchers have nothing to do with your income. It has everything to do with opportunity. Ain't you the one always crying about equal opportunities because you want equal outcomes? Well, the Taekwondos of the world, some of them actually want to go to a better school, but they're trapped in a poor performing school. Why? Because Democrats love keeping little poor black kids trapped in bad school systems. They don't want the students who have the opportunity to go to a better school. They don't want you to do that. So what they do is they hire pulpit pimps like this to lie and spout these talking points and to allege that Trump wants to take money and funnel it to private schools for the rich. And that's not true. The ones who benefit the most from school choice are poor little kids in the hood like me, whose mama had to fight and scrape and basically essentially create her own school choice because the local school district was like, well, no, you can't take her out. She got to stay here. My mother was like, yeah, okay, well, we'll see about that. We'll see about that. The only difference between what my mama did and what Trump is offering is she didn't have the luxury to take the money, the taxpayer money that was her money, to take it along with me. She had to pay out of her pocket to put me in a better school. She had to do that. So when he talks about private schools for the rich, he is lying. He is a liar and the truth is not in him. There's no basis in reality or fact for that statement. And then he said something that I don't think y'all caught. And if you listen to it, he said it so fast you would have missed it. He actually said, and he thought this was a flex, that we would actually have to take the same standardized test. I said, you know what? He really said it out loud. This man really does think that black people are inferior and incapable of passing the same standardized test that everybody else in America is required to pass. How insulting. This man literally told you, you just poor and you black and you ignorant. And you don't even need to try to strive to pass a standardized test that everybody else in the country can pass or should be able to pass as the standard. Because, competing on the base of merit, that's not something you should aspire to. I'm getting so upset over this one. My nose is itching again. I ain't gonna lie, y'all, that made me mad. That made me mad because he is essentially telling you that as a black American in this country, you lack capacity to learn like everybody else. That is racist. That is some race. Now that is a white supremacist talking point. Basically, he sounds just like his white overlord. Poor kids are just as smart as white kids. Isn't that what Joe Biden said? Freddie Haynes, essentially, by making that statement saying we would be expected to pass the same standardized test as everybody else, he basically just called everybody in his church and congregation, listen to him, is stupid. Y'all stupid. Y'all can't pass no SAT and no ACT. We need y'all to dumb down the test for the blacks. That's what he was essentially arguing. And he said it like it was a flex. And these people sat there and shouted like, yeah, because that test be hard and stuff. All the children in his congregation, he basically just told them, you lack capacity and ability to learn just like everybody else. So we got to lower the standard for you because this SAT is hard. And you shouldn't be expected to compete. You should be expected for them to treat you like you're not as smart and that you lack ability and that you lack capacity. So we gonna make it easy for you. That is so racist. That is racist. That is condescending, and he should be ashamed of himself for even thinking in such categories. I remember a time in this country where the Negro American was like, how dare you lower the standard for me? What you trying to say? I can't rise to the occasion? Booker T. Washington is probably turning over in his grave right now listening to this fool. Because Booker T was like, oh, not only can we be better, but we'll create a better product than you. We will turn out better students academically than you. We gonna make more money than you. And you gonna come to us because we're the best to ever do it. Yes, that happened at Tuskegee. Tuskegee cranked out more millionaires than we have today. Not because the standard was lower, but because he knew we had the ability to strive and be better. And here you got a pulpit pimp right here talk about, they expect us to pass the same test, a standardized one. Standardized means that across the board, this is what everybody is supposed to know. This is what everybody, regardless of ethnic expression, is supposed to be able to do. And he right here, I'm spending a lot of time on this because to me, this was he said a lot of stupid, ignorant, blasphemous things, but I don't know why this one bothered me so much. And it's probably because we have young people today. We have little white kids that actually believe that they are superior over other black children. And then we have black children that have internalized that they can't pass a test and that they can't be expected to compete on merit because they are black. That bothers me because I didn't grow up. I didn't grow up in a time where I actually had people in places of authority to indoctrinate me with such toxicity. But this is coming from a pastor of a church, allegedly. He also said that the civil rights bill would be destroyed. Why are you lying? Like, what are you getting out of this, Freddie Haynes? I hope somebody sent him this video. And I'm going to chop it up. I hope somebody sends it to him. What are you gaining by lying like this? Other than to keep your people poor, ignorant, uninformed, and dependent on your emotional drivel. What are you getting out of this? Why are you alleging that Donald Trump is going to do away with the civil rights bill? First of all, the executive branch of the United States can't do that. And there's no member of the legislature that is actually saying that they want to do this. Now, if he's referring to the rainbow cult that has kind of piggybacked on civil rights and maybe the fact that they've piggybacked on civil rights, there might be some aspects of that we might be trying to roll back. But the civil rights bill of the 1960s just destroyed, like that's happening? Really? Okay. Then he says they, I notice how he didn't identify who the they is. They had the nerve to send kids texts summoning them to report to a plantation. Now, I'm not saying that didn't happen. Oh, that absolutely did happen. In fact, I've been told that as a prank, there were black kids that actually sent those texts. I thought it was funny. I mean, it was funny to me. But the fact that he uses this as a talking point to scare and to actually intimidate and to make people think that that's an imminent threat. I believe Democrats sent those texts because, they always have to bully and subjugate to gain power. They always intimidate. That's what Jim Crow is. And now we got Jerome Crow. They got to scare you into submission. I thought it was interesting that he brought that up. Thought it was very interesting that he brought that up. Because he's speaking to his people as if they're supposed to be afraid. Now that Donald Trump is in office, they're going to be checking their phones, just waiting for them to get one of those texts. And I'm curious to know if they get one of those texts, are they actually going to go and follow through and report and do what it says? Because here he's teaching his people to be weak and docile and God, it's just horrible. This is just bad. This is just bad. I'm confused why he would think that the Supreme Court has the ability to give the executive branch power to just rule however they want. That's not true. Sir, you sound retarded. I'm sorry. I can't sanitize that. I just got to call a spade a spade. You sound retarded when you say that. We have 3 branches of government for a reason. And even, yes, with a more conservative leaning court, which you would think a preacher of the word would be a whole advocate for, because conservative values tend to align with a biblical worldview, but he don't have that kind of worldview. So I can see why he would have a problem with a conservative leaning Supreme Court. Even with the conservative leaning court, and thank goodness we have that. We need that because somebody got to stop you nasty liars, perverts, your psychopaths, and these anti-Christian bigots. Somebody got to step in and be like, y'all gone too far. Somebody got to do it. Because these people they have completely destroyed the nation. They have ushered in full-blown Sodom and Gomorrah. And God was gracious and merciful. This wasn't grace. This was mercy because we deserve it. We absolutely deserve to be ushered into full-blown Sodom and Gomorrah and just burnt down to a crisp. We deserve that for our sinful, rebellion. But God gave us mercy. But you have pulpit pimps like this who just flat out lie. You know why? Because a fearful people is a people that you can easily subjugate and control. When people are fearful and their faith is not hidden and their identity is not hidden in Christ, they can have a preacher stand up in the pulpit and say stuff like this, and they're full of anxiety. They don't have the peace of Christ to rest, rule, and abide on the inside of them. Why? Because everything he preaches is from a place of liberation on the basis of your blackness and not on the basis of your unity and union with Christ. This is not a church. And that's not a pastor. And ain't nothing biblical about the foolishness coming out of his mouth. But he crashed out on this one. He completely crashed out, went on a rant where he just lied and lied and lied. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the Standard of Truth podcast. If you've enjoyed today's conversation, don't forget to check out the Standard Home and Living lifestyle store at standardhomeandliving.com. We've got everything from book studies, journals, and even podcast merch, so you can take a piece of this conversation with you wherever you go. And of course, be sure to follow me on Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok for more updates, behind the scenes, and daily insights. You can also stay connected at thestandardofTruthpodcast.com, where you'll find all the latest news and events, including live events coming to a town near you. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. Until next time, keep standing firm in the truth. Grace and peace.